Hey guys, welcome to the official director's statement for the Xarium project. I'm the writer, producer and director of the film, Luke Lorna. I'm here to talk to you guys today and trying to make it official. I want to talk to you guys about the characters and the overall storyline for Xarium. Now basically, Xarium is set in the medieval times. There's a major transitional phase that happens during that time. A war has just beginning to break out between men and their blood-driven king. Now this king is the type of character who basically doesn't settle for second best. He goes through each of the provinces and he takes what he gets. He takes their money, takes everything they've got pretty much. Destroys their lives. For those that can't pay, basically killed right there and then. So he's the type of character that gets straight to the point, doesn't muck about. He's doing that to build himself his own army to take on the world. So basically, as a result of that, the consequences of doing something like that in those times is that you're going to have people that are going to rebel up against him. So Marius, which is Xarium's father, takes a small group of people and he starts beginning to build himself his own army to take on this king, to stop his wrongdoings. So talking a little bit about Marius' character, as a result, Marius had to end up leaving his son Xarium and his daughter Enya at a very young age. That was a guilt trip for him. Yeah, because all through Marius' life, Marius has been brought up to believe the rights and wrongs in life, and to showcase his son and daughter to a world of peace rather than, a world of violence and things like that. So Marius has always tried to guide his children in the right possible fashion and right way. So it was very difficult for Marius to actually leave, but he had to do it because he believed in it. He's also doing this to try and make amends, to try and fix past mistakes. He believes that by helping people, saving people, whatnot, he's helping himself. He's repairing a part of his heart that's broken. Another consequence that he had was at the beginning of the war, Marius' wife fell pregnant and had another baby boy, pretty much. Because of the war breaking out, the king usually targeted the younger children first and killed them off first. So Marius had to make the decision to abandon his newborn son down the river. So he did that, and he never fully forgave himself for what he did. Also, by doing that, his wife fell ill and died as a result of it. That really put the strain on Marius' health. Really hit him hard in a way that he couldn't fully comprehend, or he just couldn't deal with. So he had to go off to fight this war, and he left his children behind to defend for themselves. So he's the type of character that's suffering. He's had past mistakes, and he's trying to rebuild them though. But he's always been there for his son and daughter. He loves his family. He's a very family-orientated man. Now, as a result, I'm going to talk a little bit about Enya's character. Enya is Xarium's older sister. Now, as a result of the mother passing, Enya basically took the reins, took the stress and pressure off Marius, which is her father, to look after Xarium at a young age. And she made the meals and did the washing and all that type of stuff. She was committed to being, to stepping up and being the mother role in their life, because they knew it was going to be hard. They had to work together. Xarium is a very family-orientated story. So she never really had time for herself and never really, got to live life, through her childhood. She was always keeping busy and all that type of stuff. So that there's another reason that plays into the story later on. There's a result of that, which you'll find out more later on in the story, in the film. But now we're going to cut to Xarium's character. Xarium is the main character. He's the protagonist of the story. He's the one that's telling the story through his eyes. Xarium was brought up by his father Marius to believe in the rights and wrongs in life. He was never subjected to a world of violence. He was only subjected to a world of peace and beauty. And he had a lot of love, and he cared about people. And Marius thought that was very important. He wanted his family to grow up in a world like that, and not being subjected. So you can imagine the result, the emotional impact that would have had on Xarium if he was to witness something shocking, something that he could never get over. There was a story that broke out one day. I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine, and he was saying that his son he's 26 now, and he's never watched a horror film in his life. One day he thought, bugger it, I'll go into the video shop and I'll hire myself my first horror film. Because he's never seen it, he's never watched a horror film in his life, never been brought up to, to witness something like that. He watched it for the very first time, and the mental impact that had on him hit him pretty hard, and it messed him up for a few years. And it's what it does to you. If you have never witnessed something so shocking, it really messes with your mind. So it's kind of like that in Xarium's situation. And Xarium returns home. He comes home from work one day. He witnesses his whole life being destroyed right in front of him. He witnesses his house being going up in flames, and he also witnesses the attempted murder of his sister. She ends up dying, but not before telling Xarium, who was responsible for the wrongdoings. So Xarium, his mental side changed. He wasn't that loving, caring person that he once was anymore. He's starting to fall, and he's starting to go into a world of revenge and death and chaos and all that type of stuff. He's programmed now to respond to that, and that's all he seems to believe and think of now. So I don't want people to believe and think that this is just another revenge story, because it's not. It's a learning exercise. I want to try and create a story from a character's perspective where he goes through this phase, but he's strong enough to pull himself out of it, and to understand what happened and the consequences behind it and the actions that take place. So Xarium ends up going off to find his sister's killer and to seek his revenge, and he learns from it, and he meets a few people on the way, which I'll discuss very soon. He's also getting guided by his best friend and mentor, Samuel, and Samuel plays a very significant, very important part in Xarium's life. He's like a brother to him. So basically, Samuel is the type of character who is... He's the opposite. He's the complete opposite of Xarium. He actually witnessed his family getting killed right in front of him at a very early age, like when he was about 6 or something like that. So he actually knows that side of the world rather than Xarium doesn't. So Xarium knows what he's talking about, and he tries to convince Xarium to, don't act upon this as a sign of vengeance and things like that. He tries to guide him. That's what friends do. They try to help each other. But Xarium doesn't listen to him, and he goes off to seek his revenge. But Samuel has witnessed everything that Xarium's gone through, but he's strong enough to pull himself out and understand that. The reason his family got killed was there was a culling from the king that basically hit his village and killed his family as a result of it, because his family couldn't afford to pay the king, so they basically got killed off right in front of him. Samuel ends up escaping to the nearest village or the next village or whatever for many days, and he ends up running in, and he meets Enya and Xarium, and Enya takes him in and takes care of him, and they just become best friends from it, and as a result. So they've always been really like brothers. Like, basically that's what it comes down to. But in the end, they are not brothers, they're just best friends. There's another part to Samuel which I'm not going to talk a little bit to. I'm going to let the film play out, but there's a reason. Samuel was rejected twice in his life by two of the people that he loved the most, and as a result of that changed something in his head, and there's a story behind it, and this story will unfold itself. But there's a reason. There's something about Samuel which I'm going to let the story play out. So, cutting to the two offset characters now, there is the character that Xarium's trying to pursue to take his revenge out on. There's a character by the name of Braxis, and Braxis is a very new character that I've written into the script, into the story of the series, of the Xarium series. Braxis is the type of character who, he doesn't consider himself to be a bad man. He considers himself to be a very fair man in everything that he does. He only really does the actions that he does because of survival. He wants to survive this war, everything that's taking place, with the terms of funding, and he wants to be prepared. And he believes in himself that he's not He's not doing anything wrong. He lends out money to those that are struggling, but he expects a cut back from it. And he expects that money paid back with a cut, as a thank you. So he believes that by paying out money to people, he's doing them a service, but he's technically not. He's ripping them off. He wants something for something, and that's the type of character he is, but he thinks that he's doing it right, but he's not. He also takes profit from those that, to do hits on people. Like people pay him to kill certain people. He's like a hitman. So that's another part of his business as well, which we'll play more into. So anyway, Braxis, like I said, he's only in it for survival because of the side effects and the results of the war. So that's one of the main reasons he does what he does. But like he said, he doesn't think he's doing anything bad as a result of it. There's a business deal struck with Braxis, who I'm not going to say who by, but there is a business deal that's struck, and as a result, Enya was the target, Xarium's sister, and she ends up getting killed because of Braxis's men, because of the deal. So that's where the story takes place. Is Xarium's on a revenge quest to avenge his sister's death, but there's a reason behind why his sister got killed in the end, and you'll find out that towards the end of the movie. There's also another backstory which I'll play into later on. I might talk a little bit about that on Cyan's character actually, but yeah, he goes through and he knows that Xarium's after him, and he sends out his men to dispatch Xarium, and it doesn't go to plan, and he ends up having a confrontation with Xarium towards the end of the movie, which you find out a lot of hidden secrets and clues and things like that. He's not only just affected Xarium's life, but he's affected multiple lives, and one of those people's lives happened to be a woman by the name of Cyan. And Cyan's the type of character who she's on a quest to find out what happened to her brother, her older brother Marcus. Marcus was sold off by Braxis as a slave for one of the from her father's repayment that he couldn't pay back. As a result, Cyan really hated her family, really hated her father, especially for what he done to the family, because of his addiction to alcohol. So Cyan's on a quest to find out what's happened to her brother. So she ends up meeting Xarium at a pub, and they're both they find out that they're both fighting for the same thing. They're both finding out that they're not so different, and that they're basically, this guy's destroyed their lives and they want revenge, and they're both learning from one another, and they end up, there's a bit of a love connection, a little bit of a connection towards both characters at the end, and and just little things like that. And Cyan's the type of character, I like to consider her to be very strong-willed. She's kind of like Samuel in a way, that she's dealt with the pain at a very young age, but she is definitely suffering internally, whereas Samuel's the type of character that did suffer when he was young, and he's gotten over it. But Cyan's the type of character that did forget about it, got over it, but she's still struggling to deal with the pain that pest her family and stuff like that. So she's learning as well. As much as Xarium, she's learning as well. And so they end up teaming up together. Xarium and Samuel end up Cyan and Xarium end up teaming up together to pursue Braxis, and they cross the lands, and there's consequences that take place, and they end up, I'm not going to go too far into the story, but they both get what they get what they want in the end. They learn from it, and then they end up making the ultimate switch to leave each other at the end, and there's a reason for that, which I won't go too far into detail, but there's a main reason. Despite their love for one another, they have to leave each other in the end to pursue a quest that's, they're never going to live down if they don't pursue it. So they end up leaving because of that. That's where the story ends. But like I said, the overall story and objective and goal for Xarium is to put these 6 characters in a world where they're all basically connected to one another, and they've got consequences, and they make choices of their own that affect the overall outcome of the storyline. So all the characters are fighting for something in the end, and so that's one thing I'm really looking forward to working with. And it's going to be a very intense story. the character, there's a lot of emotion driven in this plot, in the storyline. So I'm going to be really working hard and close with the characters to try and nail their performances and get them looking right and whatnot. So it's going to be pretty full on. It's going to be pretty strong. Like I said, I've got a long way to go yet. I'm still writing the script, getting the dialogue right and things like that. But that's the overall story and the characters. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy that and get a bit more insight from that. And you can also go and check out the Shilling Entertainment website for more information, which is www.shillingentertainment.com.au, and that'll give you all the latest news and developments, what's happening with the Xarium project.